Welcome back to Fast Market here on the Schwab Network. It's time for cash tags. For that, let's bring in our next guest. That's going to be Landon Swan, co-founder of LikeFolio. Welcome back to the show, Landon.
Thank you. It's great to be here.
All right, so we're talking Delta had earnings tomorrow morning. It was a high flyer throughout the end of 2024, hitting those all-time highs at the start of this year, Landon. Rough waters right now here for Delta Airlines. I mean, what kind of data are you guys seeing? Because it feels like maybe people were pulling back. They cut guidance literally for the rest of the year. They lowered guidance for this current quarter. But are you guys seeing any data that's kind of reflective of this 28% pullback that we've seen since January?
Yeah, I mean, when you look at that last move from, what was it, 70 down to about 35, I mean, cut in half. That was obviously an ugly time for investors, and the CEO was fairly negative. I mean, he said, he talked about tariffs being the wrong approach, and he said we're acting as if we're going into a recession. And so, as an investor, that's not what you want to hear. The stock has bounced a little since then, and then kind of flattened out at where we're at right now, so around 50 or so. So it's kind of in the middle between the low and the high, but not participating, like you said, like many of the other stocks out there. I will tell you, for a long time, the story at LikeFolio data was Delta and Southwest are the two leaders. Southwest has got the leisure personal travel. Delta's got the business travel. That's been kind of blown up, at least on the leisure side. Southwest has fallen down tremendously, but Delta's held its spot. It is definitely the leader in business travel, the leader in the premium premium international category. Very resilient type of customer there, whereas the leisure can come and go as the economy moves, but business is business. You got to get there. And what's interesting is you see that people are really talking about their more premium services, their Delta One, for example, which is the newer beyond first class. And so you can see that it's actually getting more attention than first class, Comfort Plus, all of those combined. So people are interested in learning more about that, and it's attracting customers. I mean, it's basically high class experience in the sky. I think we're going to move towards a 150 square foot studio apartments pretty soon. So that's going to be pretty popular. We'll see when we get there. But yeah, it's I think that Delta has solidified itself as the premium, the international, the business class, and that's both of those premium and loyalty have both increased 7% on a year-over-year basis, which accounts for about 60% of revenue. And you can see here overall the customer base is flying less. People are less interested, but Delta's doing the best of all of those. And as you can see, what I was talking about with Southwest, it's really falling off. So they need to make a change. They need to make a comeback. But focusing on Delta, they're essentially the gold standard for business travel. They've got the top-rated punctuality and fewest cancellations. They have premium lounges. Their flight attendants are well trained to be attentive and friendly. They've got this partnership with American Express that's bringing in about $2 billion. So, and that's up 13% year over year. So they're doing everything right when it comes to attracting that premium customer. And then it's just a matter of what do people want. With Delta, you pay a lot and you get everything. With some of the other airlines, you can pay a lot less, but you kind of nickel and dimed, and you got to think about, am I taking this bag or that bag, or where do I want to sit, and all these different things. And Delta, you just pay a little bit more and you're taken care of. So with business, that fits really well. I think that they're well positioned to bounce back. What we really need to see, though, is a positive attitude out of the CEO on this call. I think that was it was a low point for the stock, and it's bounced back since. But I think people want to really see that he's talking about how they're doing well, business is coming back, business traveling is coming back, and they see a leg into more leisure travel. I think that's what people want to hear, especially now that most of the tariff stuff is likely behind us.
Landon, I think the focus on premium travel and how CEO Ed Bastian guides for the second half of the year with European travel, international travel by Americans, I think that's going to be key. This is a well-run company, but they couldn't dodge the slowdown at the beginning of the year in U.S. travel. But after their last earnings report, when they talked about that key word that's involved in the airlines, and that is capacity, and when they started holding levels of capacity flat, stocks made a nice recovery. It went from 69 to 34, now sitting just over $50. It was over 51 so far this morning. So this is still a name that is one of the gold standards in travel. Ed Bastian's a great CEO. He does things mostly the right way. They've got a pretty healthy balance sheet, but these stocks are volatile even in normal times, Landon. But you mentioned how Southwest has fallen off. It's and every airline seems to have their turn, being in favor, out of favor. Delta is certainly in favor now. United is certainly in favor now. Some of the others aren't, Landon. I'd like to hear your thoughts on the overall sector of these names before Delta kicks off tomorrow morning.
Yeah, I think, it's going to be so interesting to see how they set the tone for all the others, right? This is a very important earnings call. But you're right. It's always been sort of a rotating table of who's in favor and who's not, except for really, I can't think of a time, at least in the last 8 or so years when we've been covering airlines, that Delta has been out of favor. They've always been the number one for business travel. And it's just a question of how well they can do with leisure, but it's not that important. I mean, they're trying to get those premium seats. That's where the revenue comes from. That clientele is who they're targeting, and they're doing a great job at it. Southwest definitely falling out of favor. I don't know if they've kicked in that new thing where they actually have assigned seats. I can't remember if they've done that yet or not. I haven't flown on them in a little while. But I think it's no more of the first come, first serve, which is probably welcome. That might help them. United, I know, is going to a more of a, get what you pay for. You can kind of a la carte menu type of thing. But Delta's, sticking strong with what they've got, which is you pay a little bit more, but you get everything. And I think that that resonates with business travelers, and then they rack up points, and then they're used to flying Delta. So then when it's vacation time with their family, they stick with Delta. That's kind of the business model. It translates really well. And going into this earnings report, based on what the stock has done, based on what all the data is showing, including consumer happiness, which is very high for Delta, we've got them at a plus 27. So we see them as slightly undervalued here. Long term, probably a strong investment at $50. But short term, I think that there's more than likely to have a positive reaction to this earnings report, just given everything that we see. I think expectations are fairly low, given what was said on that first earnings call, and the data that we've got showing that they're the best in breed. And even though the sector is down a little bit, I think everyone knows that. What they may not know is Delta's doing the best of all of those.
Yep, they got the best balance sheet. Landon, real quick here before we let you go, after that earnings score you gave us, have you guys seen any trends overall in the travel industry where we're seeing cracks? Because we all know the airlines are volatile. They're choppy trade, they're cyclical, they're seasonal. Have you guys seen any overall trends in travel as far as your data goes that shows it's weakening, like maybe some of the airlines reported on their last earnings?
Yeah, so for a long time it was pent-up demand, right, after the lockdowns. And it seems like that pent-up demand has been flushed out. So we don't see people looking forward to travel as much. Leisure travel, I think, is starting to wane a little bit. So that pent-up demand story is over. So that's behind us. But fortunately for a company like Delta, that's not what they're relying on. They're relying on business travel. They're relying on the economy doing well and people just picking up in that category, so in international travel. So I'd be more concerned for Southwest, not so much for Delta.
All right, great stuff. Great data, as always, Landon. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right, that's Landon Swan. He's a co-founder of LikeFolio.com. Hey, Kevin.